All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to you from wherever you are. Welcome to this session, which is themed Beyond Urban Cities, Investing in Kenya's Future Green Growth Hubs. This session today has been planned by the SWADE program, and SWADE stands for the Sustainable Urban Economic Development Program. And the aim of the session is to showcase what we've been doing over the last 3.5 years, working in 12 municipalities in Kenya to help them develop responsive urban economic plans that help them be able to identify viable economic sectors. And the aim is not just to focus on urban planning, but then to move into the next step of actually helping a lot more investment happening at the municipality level in Kenya. And we focus on supporting value chain projects as well as climate resilient infrastructure projects. The aim of the session today is to showcase the work that the UK government is doing in partnership with Kenyan municipalities, focusing on the urban sector, importance of urban planning, moving on to project development, investment attraction. And the aim is to ensure that we are having sound economic opportunities within our municipalities. We're diversifying investment from the main urban cities of Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, and seeing how investment can actually move towards outer municipalities. And we'd also like to be able to showcase some of the opportunities that we do have. As I said, we've been working quite a bit with our municipalities, understanding the status of projects, understanding what is really economically viable, and preparing the projects for investment readiness. So we want to be able to showcase some of these opportunities to the audience at SANCCULP, as we are indeed looking for both operators and investors for some of these opportunities. And our municipalities are ready to showcase what they are doing in terms of creating an enabling environment for private sector to come in. And lastly, we'd also like to share our learnings in this process and journey of working together with our municipalities. There's a lot that has been learned, and we want to be able to provide useful insights to anyone who is looking at working at that level, especially on economic development. So a warm welcome to all of you today. My name is Liz Mwange, and I'm the Investment and Value Chain Lead for the SWADE program. And today I will be the moderator of the session. So maybe just to start off, I'd like to introduce the SWADE program so that you can have at least a background of what the program is about. SWADE is a 70 million program supported by the UK government. And we're working in 12 municipalities in Kenya to support urban planning as well as investment attraction. And the main objectives of the program are to sustain capacity at municipality level to plan better for urbanization. We support policy and legislative changes to enable greater private sector-led development. We are looking to support the municipalities or project owners within the municipalities raise investment for their projects, and the projects have to be bankable. They have to have climate resilience, and they have to have economic value. We are also looking at creating numerous jobs, as well as improving linkages between the rural and peri-urban areas that we are looking at with the larger markets. And the SWADE program works in 4 ways. We support on urban economic planning, capacity building, investment climate reform, and on investment attraction. In terms of our mechanisms, we do support and channel our work through technical assistance in the areas that I've mentioned above, as well as providing a seed fund. So today we're going to have a 90-minute session that will enable you guys to be able to better understand who we are, what we've done, and what are some of the opportunities for for you to engage with us. And to start us off, I would like to introduce our first speaker. And our first speaker today is Ms. Eunice Ogolo. Eunice is the private sector development lead at the British High Commission, and she's also the senior responsible owner for the SWADE program. Eunice leads the UK strategy on resilient urban development in Kenya, and she previously was the CEO of the Kenya Business Trust and has previously worked in the microfinance industry. Eunice today will lay the context for our session. She's going to be talking about the UK government and Kenya government partnership inspiring economic development. And her focus is why an integrated approach works when it comes to marrying urban economic planning and investment attraction. And as I hand over to Eunice, I'd like to say again, a warm welcome to everybody, and thank you for joining this session. Over to you, Eunice.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Liz, for laying that foundation really well and for the kind introduction. Hello, everybody. Greetings from Nairobi, Kenya, to all of you, wherever it is that you are joining us from. We are very grateful that you made time for this session, so feel very welcome. Allow me also to thank the organizers of the SANCALP Summit for convening this great gathering of like-minded individuals to have these conversations. I think it is really important, so thank you so much to the SANCALP team. Well, as Liz has said, today we're going to use this session and this platform to showcase a successful partnership between the UK government and the Kenyan government in supporting resilient urban development in Kenya's secondary cities. We will share with you how the UK-funded Sustainable Urban Economic Development Program is partnering with counties and municipalities across Kenya to create the right conditions for well-managed urbanization and to spur economic growth within these regions. So as Liz has said, my role at this point is just to start us off with a brief overview of the partnership and to usher the detailed panel discussion that will be, explaining more around our approach and our ambition for this partnership. So just to start us off then, and I know Liz has done a really good job explaining what the SWED program is and how we deliver it. So yes, SWED is one of the many areas of partnerships that the UK has with the Kenyan government. We do partner on a lot other areas on economic development, but also broadly on governance issues, on health issues. And so today we will be focusing on economic development and showcasing how we partnering with Kenya's regions to spur economic growth, but also to plan better for urbanization. So the SWED program, again, as Liz has mentioned, it provides expertise to design climate resilient urban economic plans in 12 secondary towns across Kenya. So we did a competitive call. We have selected 12 towns that we are focusing on, and we're supporting them to design climate resilient urban economic plans. But also we are developing a pipeline of investable anchor projects from the urban economic plans. We do this through market testing, we do feasibility studies, financial structuring, and investor engagement. And also the program provides small amounts of concessional financing to de-risk some of these projects and encourage private sector to invest in them. So today we will basically be showing you in the detailed panel discussion some of that work, the lessons that we have learned out of it. But firstly, we may ask ourselves, why is this important? Why is it important that we engage in this and the collaborative way that we do it? So I think it is important because Kenya is urbanizing very rapidly, and climate change is a daily reality with us. And I think this is a phenomenon that is not just true to Kenya, but indeed across Africa. And this presents both challenges, but also opportunities. As we may know, poorly planned urbanization often results into socioeconomic inequalities, inadequate housing, high unemployment rates, and vulnerability to climate and environmental risks. And we have seen it, I think, in major cities across Africa, where we kind of have two cities in one. And just taking an example of Nairobi, we often talk of two Nairobis in one, the upper class Nairobi and the very lower class Nairobi. So the social inequalities is really huge. There is inadequate housing and high unemployment rates. So that's a big risk with urbanization, and especially the rapid rate of urbanization in Kenya and indeed across Africa. But if we get it right, well-managed urbanization in intermediary towns presents an opportunity to achieve more balanced economic growth and to create resilient livelihoods. And I think it helps to go beyond the major cities and to create green growth hubs in the regions. And that is why SWED as a program is very deliberately targeting secondary towns, as we have explained, to help them to structure their growth better and to increase economic development opportunities in the communities. And just to say that we do this very collaboratively, and I think that's very important. So SWED works very closely with the national government, the county governments, the municipal teams, private sector, and other interest groups. And it's a very collaborative program in its approach. And I think that matters a lot, that we bring on board everyone to have these discussions. And just as I finish, to give room for the detailed panel conversation, I just say that to further emphasize this importance of intermediary towns, some of you may already be aware that the 9th AfriCities Summit, which is a Pan-African Cities Conference, will be hosted in Kenya later this year, sometime in May, in Kisumu. Kisumu is an intermediary town here in Kenya, and we will be hosting the 9th AfriCities Summit, which will be focused on the role of intermediary towns in the process of urbanization in Kenya and across Africa. And I think this is really important, as we are saying, that we devolve growth from the major cities into the intermediary cities as well. And so with that, I'll just hand over back to Liz, really looking forward to the panel discussion into the details of some of the lessons that we have learned. So I'll hand over back to Liz to steer us into that. But thank you again for making time for this, and looking forward to a very fruitful discussion. Thank you, Liz, back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Eunice, for laying that context. We'll advise anyone who has a question to maybe note it down within the chat box, and we'll take your questions once the panel session is done. And Eunice has mentioned that SWADE is very much a collaborative program. And as we get into the panel, we want you to be able to understand actually the in-depth process in terms of how the program works. And within the panel, we'll also hear directly from our representatives of 2 municipalities where we work, to hear the perspectives of the support we provided in terms of helping them to better position themselves, engaging not only with private sector, but actually doing proper urban planning and getting projects that are investment ready. So without much further ado, I'd like to introduce my panel members. I'd ask them to maybe put their videos on as I introduce them. And to start off, I want to introduce Jamil Shamji. Jamil is the municipal board chair for Kisii municipality. And he is a prominent businessman based in Kisii and has served in various companies as a director. Notably, he is a non-executive director at Diamond Trust Bank in Kenya. He has previously served on boards of Aga Khan Health Services as well as the Aga Khan Education Services. Within Kisii, he served as a member of the County Public-Private Partnership Committee, the Kisii County Budget and Economic Forum Committee, as well as he's on the board of the Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital. Welcome, Jamil. I'll move on to our second panelist. Her name is Janet Jeruto. Janet is the advisor legal affairs in Elgeyo Marakwet County. Her main role is to audit the policy gaps and advise the county on how to do policy development. Since 2018, she has been a member of the county project coordinator of Kenyan Urban Program for Iten municipality. And she also sits on the SWADE Program Steering Committee within Iten municipality. Welcome, Janet. My third panelist is Simon Elliott. Simon is the Urban Economic Planning component lead on the SWADE program, and he works for Atkins, which is a world-renowned urban planning firm. Simon has worked in the field within urban and regional planning for over 35 years. He is an expert in the preparation of regional, city, and local development plans to guide and stimulate investment. He led the preparation of the 2030 regional plan for the Western region of Abu Dhabi. And he's currently the team leader for the Atkins team within SWADE, and they're working on developing the urban economic plans for the program, and they've done so for 12 municipalities. Lastly, our last panel member is Stephen Ombasa. Stephen is an associate director, deal advisory at KPMG. And KPMG is one of the 2 transaction advisory firms that is on the SWADE program. And he has over 12 years experience in transaction services and has worked across various types of organizations across East Africa in the area of project finance, financial modeling, project feasibility, and market growth. And Steve is the team leader for the KPMG team within the SWADE program. So thank you very much to my panelists for today. And I'm going to start off my panel discussion with Jamil. Jamil, you're the board chair of Kisii Municipality. And within SWADE, I get a lot of questions in terms of what actually is the role that the municipality plays within the counties. And I want you to be able to demystify to us what the role is and how you work closely with the county, and especially in the areas of the SWADE program related to urban planning, facilitating investment. And I think you can give us a better perspective of how things work, looking at Kisii Municipality and how you're also able to achieve your mandate. Over to you, Jamil.
Thank you very much, Liz, and good morning or good afternoon to everybody who has joined us. It's a pleasure to be here in front of you. And first of all, Liz, let me just say thank you very much to the SWADE program. I may forget to thank you later on, so I want to say thank you very much in advance. The question you had was on trying to demystify what municipalities are. Let me try and give you context within what happens. The first thing is that I think for everybody who is a global investor, there are two things there are two trends that are happening in Kenya. The first trend is urbanization. Urbanization is happening at a very fast rate, and secondary towns, which actually were initially the third-rated towns or tertiary towns, are now growing at a very, very quick rate, and they're almost doubling populations within 5 to 10 years. So urbanization is becoming very big, and the government of Kenya has realized that this is an issue, and what they've started to do is to actually devolve the system of government. So in 2018, the Urban Areas and Cities Act was passed by an act of parliament, which created urban boards that would actually be given the mandate to oversee and govern the running of municipalities or urban areas within various parts of the country. There are certain criteria that are given for these urban areas, which are based on the population and the kind of services that are available. But basically, a municipal board or a municipality is now, a board is actually an organization or an entity that has been created to manage the running and the running of the affairs of that particular municipality, which has a border, which has a boundary, and it is now semi-independent, and it is mandated to provide services and to collect revenue and to attract investment, and basically to improve the quality of life of its residents. So the municipal board, if you look at the organogram of the county government, you have the governor, and then under the governor, you have different ministries, what we call departments, and the municipality then comes under one of the departments, and it is most likely the Department for Urban Development. So this is how the municipalities are actually created, and they work very closely with the government because they form part of the county government, they form part of the ministries within the government. Now, SWADE's role has actually been to come in and to partner with the municipalities, but through the county government and through the county departments that are actually in charge of these municipalities. I just want to give a small context on Kisii. So the Kisii municipality was formed in 2018, and we have 6 independent members, and we have 4 members from the county government who sit on the board. This board is then responsible for policy making and for governance, and we have an executive team under the board that actually carries out the day-to-day operations and executes the policies of the municipal board. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Jamil. Maybe just to ask in terms of how you support private sector in Kisii, especially from an investment perspective. Maybe you can share with us some of the ways in which Kisii works to support private sector development. Thanks.
Okay, your question is quite loaded. Let me see how I can give a good response to it. First of all, my background, like you mentioned earlier, is that I come from the private sector, and it is only 2 years ago that I actually joined the public sector. And now I have a very good appreciation for the challenges within the public sector. So when the Kisii municipality was set up and established, there was no real guidance as to how it would run. And most organizations or most government entities need to have a long-term plan, need to have an integrated development plan or some kind of plan that will talk about how they want to manage their urban areas. So Kisii was fortunate to partner with the SWEET program. And the first thing that we did was to actually work with the SWEET program to develop what is called the Urban Economic Plan for Kisii. So the Urban Economic Plan is a 10-year plan that actually is a result of almost 1 year of participation and consultations with residents of the municipality. And it summarizes the vision of the residents of the municipality, and it picks up trends on how the municipality is expected to grow, and then comes up with a roadmap on what kinds of developments and what kind of environment planning needs to be done, including land planning, to ensure that investment happens and that urbanization is done at a level that is actually meeting the requirements of the residents. And in fact, the most important aspect in this whole urban planning and the urban economic plan of the municipality is to ensure that there is actually a very good enabling environment for private investment of all forms to take part. And this is actually put down into the urban economic plan. So let me give you a synopsis on what there is. So when the plan looked at 10 years, it told us that in order for us to actually create the infrastructure, we would need to invest about 9.1 billion Kenyan shillings, which would be about $80 million over the next 10 years for Kisii. The urban plan, the urban economic plan also goes down to break it down to tell you how it is feasible to actually get this funding. And we now know that about 30% of that funding will come from government sources, 20% will come from working with donors and development agencies. But the most important thing is that 50% of this investment we are looking to get will be from private investment and PPPs. So that is the importance that we are giving to the investment and to the private investor. We know that they will be responsible for the majority portion of the development of the enabling environment within the municipality.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jamil, for letting us know how you're using the urban economic plan to sort of visualize the areas that you can target for investment, and not just from private sector, but also creating opportunities for other types of funding to come in. I would like to maybe move on to Janet Geruto. Janet works within the legal affairs team at the Elgeyo Marakwet County, and she is the legal advisor to the county governor, Honorable Alex Torgos, who was not able to join the session today, but Janet will be able to represent his views on the panel, as well as share some of the work that she's doing in policy development, because every time we talk to investors or private companies, there's always the issue of how do we engage with the opportunities that are available at the municipality level. So I'd like Janet to come in and share her perspectives on that, and how they're creating an enabling environment in Iten based on some of the work that we've done with them within the SWEET program. Over to you, Janet.
Thank you very much
All right.
for hosting me and allowing me to stand in for the governor. His Excellency sent his apologies for not being able to attend, but all the same, he really, still appreciates the funding from UK government through SWED and what it has done to Iten municipality in terms of, both policy development, strengthening the systems, and just giving Iten the platform that it needs for to be investor ready. As you said, I work in the legal department, and more so, my main job is issues of policy gap and just advising what needs to be done. And since we got the funding from SWED and being one of the small municipalities, there's so much that we needed to do. I must mention that issues of policy are always need-based, in that when you start working, then you realize that there's a gap that needs policy development in a certain area. And since we started engaging with SWED, and even since the formation of the municipalities, certain policies that have been passed. One of them is the Climate Change Policy 2020. I think when you started your conversation in the morning, Liz, you mentioned that one of the things that SWED does is to ensure we have climate resilient projects. So last year, the other year, 2020, we passed a climate change policy. And this year we have passed a Climate Change Act just to, on issues of funding to back up the policy. The other thing that we've done, we just strengthened the structure in terms of, for example, at the municipal level, we now have a one-stop shop, which was, after capacity building that was done by SWED, we were able to pick one person who now is in charge of one-stop shop for all investment attractions through the UAP. So if you walk to Iten right now, you'll get one desk that has all those projects that were fronted by the UAP. We also have a Disaster Management Act, which was passed last year, 2021. Iten, because it is one of the smaller municipalities, we didn't have certain important infrastructure, one of them being a disaster management center. And we almost finished building one, and we needed an act to back up that center. So, and that came from the, in collaboration with the Kenya Urban Support Program. So from building infrastructure to make it ready, which included looking at what we were missing in the town. And all the things we were missing were infrastructure like roads. We were missing issues like, disaster management center and some of the policies that accompany them. So through consultation with the public, those are things that we were able to do initially. That is the Climate Change Policy Act, the County Disaster Management Act, and also just amending our Citizen Participation Act to make sure that the residents of Iten, their voice is heard when it comes to investment. So Liz, I think that is what you asked, unless you want another clarity. I think I must mention also that Elgeyo Marakwet, since 2016, has been a member of Open Government Partnerships as a member in the world, which means that we are open to any audit from the public, and that in case of anything, you can actually complain through our Complaints and Compliments Committee and through our complaints number. So we are open to any criticism, any compliment through our engagement with the Open Government Partnerships from 2016 to now. And that is the same even for the municipality. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Janet, for sharing with us on the policy front some of the initiatives that you're undertaking within Iten that are all critical in terms of creating that enabling environment for investment. I'd like to move on to the urban planning bit of it and want to ask Simon. Simon, as I introduced you earlier, you are the urban planning guru, and you've been supporting us in terms of doing urban planning in the 12 municipalities. And we just wanted to hear more from you. And I know Jamil has given us a good context in terms of what the urban plan is, what it contains. And, we do have the urban economic plans in our website, as they are critical documents that are being used even by municipalities for investment attraction. I'd like maybe, Simon, for you to share with us the aspect of urban economic planning and how, the importance of it. And then in terms of the considerations that you make, especially when assessing projects for climate resilience, Maybe you can share with us some of the principles that you look at as you go through that process.
Yes, thanks, Liz. And good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be with you. And thanks for this opportunity to talk about urban economic planning. I must say it's been fantastic to listen to Jamil and to Janet, who come from two municipalities, Kissi and Iten, which have been extremely engaged in the whole process. We were in their towns for upwards of 8 to 10 months preparing the UEP themselves, and they welcomed us with open arms and were always ready to help set up meetings and so forth. And that really is one of the key elements to preparing a sound, robust plan, is that you have that form of engagement. So Liz, what I thought I'd do this afternoon is very briefly touch on exactly what an urban economic plan is, because I'm sure many people may have heard the term before but aren't entirely sure what it is or what it does. I wanted to talk a little bit about how it should be done and how we've gone about the process within the SUID program. There's an agreed methodology that we found has been very effective and has been run across all 12 municipalities over the last 2 to 3 years. And then just a little bit about why it's so important for municipalities to engage in this process, either through the SUID program or potentially municipalities that may want to create and develop their own urban economic plan once they see how effective it can be in attracting inward investment into their municipal area. So if I can just talk briefly on what is the urban economic plan. Well, it's a plan that's going to promote economic growth and support urban development in a sustainable, but also very importantly, inclusive way through a range of prioritized integrated projects. How do we do it? Well, we assess the current economic status of both the town, the municipality, even the county and its regional context as well, for example, within the economic blocks. And that information is brought together in a diagnostics that identifies what are the strengths and weaknesses and what are the opportunities and some of the threats that are currently being felt by the municipality and the broader business community in terms of its economic status and those sectors that have been identified. We then also, through that process, start to identify some of what we call value chain projects. This could be related to manufacturing, it could be related to agricultural processing, it could be more infrastructure-based projects, for example, introducing solid waste management into the regime as well of the municipality to ensure that the town is run properly from that aspect as well. We then identify what we call key climate resilient infrastructure. This is the infrastructure that's going to support the development of the various value chains that have been identified, but it's also helping the municipality to respond to the 21st century urban development impacts that they're all being faced in terms of rural to urban migration, and obviously again, climate impacts and climate change impacts that are being affected, be it through flood, drought, or other significant events. And then through that whole process, and again, it's also about stakeholder participation, we start to identify what we call the capacity building projects, where there are areas and gaps that need to be filled in order to enable the municipality to move forward with the implementation of the proposed projects that are held within the UEP itself. Ultimately, it's very important that the UEP has a strong focus on financial sustainability, recognizing that the town in itself will need in the future to be able to stand alone, build its own capacity, build its own revenue generation, to continue making improvements to the town and to continue to respond to climate change impacts and also other economic stresses that occur from time to time. For example, over the last 2 years, the significant impact around COVID-19 pandemic, for example. And then it's helping them to understand and manage that ecosystem within the municipality to be able to deliver the services that the local communities require, not just on a day-to-day basis, but also in terms of growing the town further and attracting that inward investment that comes from that. So that's really what the urban economic plan itself aims to do. But what is key is in all of this is the methodology that's adopted at the initial stages of the planning process to ensure that it's robust, inclusive, and is relevant to the municipality, because it's not a one plan fits all situation here. Each municipality has its own set of unique issues and challenges that need to be considered. In a nutshell, the process is very much one of having early stakeholder engagement and then moving through into a significant diagnostics assessment phase, which includes then identifying the economic sectors that are helping to drive the town, and then marrying that with an infrastructure assessment and gap analysis to look at where we can start to introduce infrastructure. And also we do a significant climate risk assessment as well to ensure that whatever we do propose within the town is responding to climate change at the same time. Liz, I'm going to leave it there, and I'm happy to chat more on the subject. As you can see, I'm quite keen on talking quite a lot about it as we move forward. Thanks, Liz.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Don't worry, we'll have a second round of questions. But I want to encourage everyone to put their questions in the chat box so that we can be able to begin to look through some of them and be able to have them ready for when the panel session is over so that we can address them. I'd like to move on to Stephen. Stephen, once the urban economic plans are completed, now your work comes in terms of really trying to identify which projects can be investment ready and can actually attract and leverage other funding in the sense of not wanting to just stop at planning, but actually to have something on the ground. So I'd like you, Stephen, to take us through this aspect of creating investment ready projects at the municipal level and looking at it from your eye as a transaction advisor who, you've worked in different projects, how do you compare the projects that we get and how do you prepare them working in support with the municipalities and other stakeholders to ensure that we have what you'd call bankable projects?
Thank you, Liz, and the panelists who've already spoken, and good morning or good afternoon to all the participants. As Simon mentioned, and I think Eunice also did touch on this, that the way the SWED program has been structured is that it's a sequential sort of arrangement, which starts with the development of the UEP, which Simon has covered very well. And in that process, then there are emerging opportunities, be they value chain, be they infrastructure. But then where we come in as an investment attraction firm is to try and look at and sift through those opportunities to try and see which of those are ready so that we can then go out to the market, look for potential investors to come and ultimately invest in the municipalities or in the counties actually. And that entails a process which starts from, trying to get the long list of projects, trying to do some sort of a screening, doing a detailed analysis to ensure that we then come down to some projects which we want to take to market. Now, when you're looking at project readiness, which is a question that Liz was asking here, is really trying to understand, yes, there are 10, 15, 16 opportunities, but which of those are ready actually that you can go to market immediately and be able to, attract investments, be they private sector or public sector. Now, looking at project readiness, then you start to ask yourself around, how does the supply side look like? Do we have enough raw materials, to be able to sustain a certain project? Maybe perhaps to mention that we've seen very many projects set up in Kenya and elsewhere, but then post that setup, they do not live to the expectation, which goes back to the question as whether they were actually ready for investment when they were set up in the first place. So looking at the supply side to try and understand how is the situation there, can we ensure from a supply side a sustainable supply of the required inputs to be able to make that project work? But it's also possible that you can have a project that, has enough in terms of the supply side, but there's actually no demand. So you also need to look at, we go through a process of evaluating on the demand side and assessing what is the demand out there, which is the product that is required, especially for the value chains. What is the demand out there? What products are required? And hence, will that, if we put a certain product out there, will it be able to attract the right demand and be able to get an investment? I remember Janet and I think Jamil did mention about around the policies, creating an enabling environment. So again, it's a question of looking at the entire value chain, trying to analyze and see, is it looking at the policies in place? Are those policies that support, if you look at the case of private investment, or is there a requirement that is the county or the municipality might need to put in place some certain policies, certain frameworks to be able to encourage investments? We've seen cases where the policy framework, there are gaps in that investors feel like unless there are changes or a certain, if for example, if you look at, the avocado sector where somebody says, unless there's a policy in place around harvesting to ensure that there's, we can be able to limit the involvement of brokers and other things, then they're not willing to invest. So looking at the policy environment and trying to ask ourselves, what are some of the policies that needs to be put in place so that then give the investors confidence to come into the equation. Something else is around, the preparedness of the county, of the municipality to be able to receive the investments. And this touches around things like what are some of the incentives, what are some of the contributions that the county is willing to make so that to ensure that a project that is taking off will actually be successful. So as an investment attraction firm on the program, our role then becomes analyzing all those particular factors and many others to be able to come to the conclusion that yes, a particular project it can be implemented successfully, or a certain project might have to delay for a little longer until it gets to a point where we are confident that all the points are being ticked before we can go to market. Liz, I don't know if you have a follow-on question.
Stephen, thanks for that. Maybe what I can ask as a follow-on is, are you able to share the extent of services that you provide to the municipalities? Because I know you start off from screening and your mandate is all the way to attracting investment. Maybe you can talk about in between. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So when you look at the investment attraction process, let's break that down because sometimes it can look a very big word. So the process essentially starts by looking at the long list of projects, which has come from Simon Said in the UEP. We look at that list and say, okay, which of these opportunities are actually viable in the current state? And we have a process where we go through a screening process using a certain criteria that looks at very, looking at the supply side, the demand, the climate aspects, the social inclusion and gender aspects, looking at things like the impact expected from the project so that we're able to shortlist a project. So once we've then come down to a shortlist of the projects we want to take forward, the next phase of our work is to look at doing a detailed study, a feasibility study, to be able to understand the viability of that project. Lisa at the start mentioned about a bankable project, and this can only come through a feasibility study or sometimes called a business plan to be able to ensure that there is a bankable project here. So once we select a project, we do a feasibility study and we assure that yes, this is a project that is ready for investment. Then the next phase for us is to go out to the market and look for potential investors. Now, this is a process of, as part of that feasibility study, of course, there is a question around trying to make a decision on who's the right investor for this project. Private sector, public sector, development world, donors and other things, given the status of the project and the objectives, and to make who's the right investor, and we go out to the market and target those sort of investors. As the investors come on the table, you then have a process of engaging negotiations and discussions. And here we support the municipalities and hold them Sorry, Liz, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. We lost you just a bit, but you can continue.
Yes, so I was saying, just to summarize, I said project screening, we do have feasibility studies. We go out looking for investors. Once we have an investor, it's then moving on to due diligence exercise, which is trying to do a due diligence. It might be on the investor, it might be on the project, depending on the project status, and then leading on to signing of the deal structures and agreements, which will then see an investor coming down onto the ground. Throughout this process, there's a lot of stakeholder engagement and of course an element of capacity building, working with the municipalities to ensure that as we do the project, as we do the program, they are also able to come on and do similar projects even long after the project the program is completed. Liz, I'll give you back to you.
Thank you very much, Stephen, for that highlight in showing exactly the steps that you take to from the projects that are in the urban economic plan to get them, to actually be initiatives on the ground. I'm just going to go back to Jamil. Jamil, I want to invite you back so that now that Stephen has told us about the process, they work together with you to get projects to be investment ready. I wanted you to share with us some of the opportunities that are emerging in Kisii, that we are working on together, but also just beyond that, some of the initiatives that you have within Kisii that are attractive for investment. We do have a lot of investors within the audience, so we'd want to be able to understand better from you what is coming out of Kisii.
Thank you, Liz. So let me just speak about the work that KPMG has been doing for us in Kisii. I think we looked at 3 or 4 major projects, and we then shortlisted 3. One was investment in the banana fruit. The second was investment in something called the soapstone and fruit processing, and the last one was avocado. And I'm actually very happy to say that we've actually been able to have final discussions with a private investor from Kenya, who now, with the support of SWADE, has agreed and signed an MOU with the Kisii municipality and the county government to come in and put up an avocado processing plant. And we hope to, and I think the capacity they will be doing is about 70 to 80 tons per day. Now, this is something that the county government and the municipality have been trying to do for a number of years, but because we were not able to get to the finishing line because of some small kind of support that was required, and which has actually come in through KPMG. And I believe that this project will actually almost impact the lives of about 20,000 farmers in Kisii County. So this is one of the things we're doing. We're also looking at the banana fruit to see what we can do from the banana fruit in terms of making a banana powder, making sanitary pads, using it to get us disposable plastic items or disposable food items. We're also looking at, I want to go back, there was a chat, I saw a question from a chat, and Liz, if you will allow me, I'd like to answer that later on, which talked about how do we get the youth and digital technology involved. And I will answer that, if you don't mind, later on. But now if we come and look at the projects that are actually available within Kisii municipality, and it is very important to note that all these projects are actually projects that have been identified through the urban economic plan that we have. The first one is a market development, actually creating markets which are COVID compliant, and establishing a digital revenue collection system. I will go into that later in detail. A second project which is available for public and private partnership is the construction of a large and modern bus park. Kisii is growing, and we expect it to grow very quickly. So a bus park is a big priority and a big project there. We're also looking to create a town center, a logistics center to support the markets. There is a potential in infrastructure, that is roads, street lighting, and such the amenities. There is opportunities in affordable housing. There are opportunities on this is the other value chain projects that I had mentioned. So there's a lot that is available, and I think I think what we need to do is have a mind shift, a change, and to say that these investors who are there and the entrepreneurs who are there, I think what tends to happen is that the first thing they do is to actually look for a project. And then once they look for a project, they look for the funding. And then the third thing they realize is that they then have to work with the government and the regulatory environment. And what we're asking them to do is have a mind shift change. Come and talk to us as the local government. Understand from us, how much do we know of our citizens? What do we know about their aspirations? And everything that we know is in the urban economic plan. And we will tell them that this is what you need to do, because there are two things that are certain in life: death and taxes. And municipalities survive on taxes. And what we want to do is to create an enabling environment so that our tax efficiency is good, it's efficient, it's maximized, but the money that we get is then circulated back into the economy. So what we're saying is that we know our residents and we know our customers, and we as a municipality and a municipal government know which are the best projects. And secondly, coming back to creating the enabling environment and talking about laws and acts, you know, when you deal with the national government, there's a lot of bureaucracy. When you deal with the county government, there's also less bureaucracy, but it is still there. We are an urban government. We are new. We're just starting up. We're in the process of setting up bylaws. And what we're saying that there is no red tape. I will share my personal mobile number on this chat, and anybody can contact me or can contact the CEO of the municipality, and we promise to actually give you 100% of our support and to pick up all calls that come to us. So what I'd like to say is that there is a lot of opportunity to work in the secondary cities, work with the municipalities, because through the SWIFT program, there is a lot of change that we are doing. There's a lot that's happening. We're now developing a master plan. We've come up with a transportation plan, an environmental management plan, a disaster management plan. We are making sure that all donor funding, we receive quite a bit of funding from the World Bank, but we're making sure that all the funding that we get is actually aligned with the urban economic plan, so that we maximize on the synergies that are available from our development partners. We're coming up with a municipal board charter. I mentioned the digitized revenue collection system. We also want to come up with a digitized online public participation platform, where we will be engaging with our residents online. We are coming up with a management framework, and most importantly, a performance management framework. Everything that we're doing here is actually a result of the capacity building training that we have gotten from the SWIFT program. So I want to guarantee, and I want to say without fear or favor, that the 12 municipalities that are supported by the SWIFT program will probably be the most effective municipalities in the next 2 years. And these will be the municipalities that you need to work with. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Jamil. And, you know, we see ourselves as coming in to play that role to, you know, push you forward. And we know that, you know, where we'll leave you, you know, will be a much better place. And I do appreciate those words in terms of just how the support we've provided is able to manifest in terms of the work that you're doing. We do have a lot of questions that have come through, and I'd like to maybe start tackling some of them right now. We have a question from Michael that talks about, actually from Martin, and he asks, what has been the role of the youth and digital technology in urban economic planning at the municipal level? I'd like to ask Simon to tackle that first. And I know, Jamil, you did want to come in on that one. So after Simon answers that one, you can come in. There's also another question that has been asked by Alex. He says, how do we ring fence investments or initiatives from seasonality of election cycle? I'm going to ask Jamil and Janet. Janet, maybe you can start us off and then Jamil can add to that. Given the fact that a lot of investors are wary during the election period, maybe you can talk to us about some of the initiatives and procedures that you're undertaking to ensure that investments are secured. We can start off with those two and I'll take the others as they come along.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. As part of the overall process and methodology that we used for the preparation of the UEPs, and something that's a theme that runs throughout the SUID program, not just at the UEP level, but also through to the various other stages of the program, is gender and social inclusion. This is one of our core and key principles that we've introduced through the program and into the UEPs mostly through our stakeholder engagement practices within the various municipalities. One of the sort of areas within that engagement has been the youth, identifying the challenges and the issues that the youth in the various municipalities face today, be it around employment, training, skills development, access to finance and resources, opportunities to engage in the local economy at whatever level they're trying to do, and so on and so forth. So woven through our proposals in a practical way is identifying how various groups, particularly what we call special interest groups within the municipal areas, how they can get involved in both the process in terms of preparing the UEP, understanding what it is, what it's looking to achieve, and how it's going to move forward, but then engaging post-UEP with the municipality in potentially being part of some of the investment initiatives that take place within those particular locations as well. So some examples from a digital perspective is that at a very broad level, the Atkins Global Group have what we call a GIS web map. This is where we capture all of the, not only the projects themselves and the proposals contained within the UEP, but also all of the data and information that was collected through the diagnostics phase. We put in there all of the programming and scheduling and costing of the various projects as well to assist the municipalities with their budgeting. So it's a significant tool that can be carried forward and run and maintained by the municipalities themselves in order to ensure not only that the implementation of the various projects coming out of the UEP are tracked, but also that they can then add into it other elements of development and infrastructure interventions that are taking place through other donor initiatives, whether it's KISSIP or CUSP or any other really. So that is the one digital side of it. The other side is that coming out of some of the projects that we've actually proposed are opportunities, and Jamil touched on this to some extent, creating digital platforms within which the youth can be involved. And I'm thinking particularly, for example, aggregation networks that we're looking at to help the supply chain side of getting product into the agri-processing clusters and hubs that we're proposing. There's also ideas around platforms for public transportation to make it more reliable and more efficient, and people engaging with public transport on a digital platform level as well. So digital is very much the future, as we know, and it is woven throughout the proposals that we're considering in the UEPs, depending on the context of the municipality and where it can be rolled out. I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Simon. Jamil, did you want to add anything on youth and urban planning?
Thank you, Liz. So let me address this question directly to Martin. Martin, I think he's given you a very good, Simon has given you a very good response in terms of the macro level or the global level, but let me zoom down to Kisii municipality and just tell you that Kisii is not any different from any other town in East Africa. You have everybody coming into town, everybody wanting to work in town. You have the youth there, but if you separate the youth by gender, you have the men, the young men who actually have been able to find some kind of work, using motorbikes as a transport modes of transport, or what we call the bodas. But you also have the young ladies, and you ask yourself that, after they finish secondary school, where do these young ladies go? And what do they do? The men, we know they get the motorbikes and they're able to earn a living. But the ladies then, what they do is they then become small-scale traders. And they now start selling vegetables, they start selling used clothes, used handbags and such things. And these are the women who are also our citizens. So what we do is that after COVID, we noticed that we had to actually close all the informal markets and chase them away. And that was a problem for them. So what we decided to do was to now come up with a process of trying to see if we can build what we call COVID compliant markets. And we assume, or we're presuming that we have about 5,000 young ladies who actually come and sell goods within the streets of the municipality on a daily basis. What we want to do is we want to give them these COVID markets, and we want each person to actually be given a spot that is GPS identified through technology. They sign an online contract with us, which tells them that we're giving them that space for 1 year, and they will be paying us, let's say 50 Kenya shillings per day. And as long as they pay us that money, they will not be harassed by any officer from the enforcement or from the revenue. So what does this do? All of a sudden, it gives them actually some form of dignity, and it gives them a space where they can actually work out of. And this technology of revenue collection on a digital platform through Safaricom is available. It is available, and it can be scaled, and it can be, it can be customized to any way you want it. But what is more important is that once you get this lady to on board and to become a digital customer of the municipality and pay you that 50 shillings, all of a sudden now she's beginning to have a history of some kind of financial transactions happening on her. And through that, and because she has a specific GPS identified location within the municipality where she conducts her business, all of a sudden she has become bankable, and she will be eligible to digital loans from commercial banks. So what I want to say, the potential is there. It's only that what you need to come and understand, what do municipalities want for their citizens? Because there's two things a municipality does. The first thing is to provide services to its citizens, and the second is to then tax the citizens for the services provided. And there are opportunities in this cycle. Thanks, Liz.
Thanks for that, Jamil and Simon. Martin, I hope your question has adequately been addressed. I'd like to call on Janet to tell us about the way the counties are ring fencing investments or initiatives, especially during this election cycle. Even as a program, we've been having discussions with yourselves. We started in 2018, we're going all the way till 2024. So right now, the election is coming in the middle of us, facilitating investments. So I'd like to hear from yourself in terms of how ETEN is working to ensure that some of this investment or the work being done will actually go beyond, the next government and all that.
Thank you very much for the question. And I think before I answer, it is going only to be fair if I get a platform like one for Jamil to talk about the projects that ETEN municipality identified through the UAP. And one of them is a potato, the issue of potato factory. Sorry, one of the first projects is value chain on potato. We all know that Elgeyo Marakwet is one of the biggest potato producers in the country. We produced up to 300,000 tons per year. And last year, I think it was all over the news, it was trending this year, Ali, that a plate of potato in Nairobi, a plate of chips in Nairobi costs the same with a bag of potatoes a bag of potato harvested in Elgeyo Marakwet. So I must comment right now that through SWED, we've been able to get an investor, and we are seeing, we took the investor to the site, and we are very happy with what is going on. The second value chain was the issue of groundnuts, and from what I hear from SWED is that we are very likely to get an investor very soon. There are conversations around that. And the third issue is the third attraction is the issue of construction of a sports hub within Iten municipality. Our vision is to have a time of choice for sports, tourism, and investment. We all know that all champions come from Iten municipality. We were recognized recently by the World Athletics Center as a heritage center. So we want to place our town as a place, as a #1 choice for investment in sports and tourism. So if you have any investor out there who's listening to us, you're open for any conversation, just like Kisii municipality. Now, back to your question, Liz. I think the question is on the issue of how do you invest all this investment that we want to attract from the normal election cycle. And I want to answer it in 2 ways. One is that we have the board, for example, the Iten board municipality or any other board, the municipal boards are beyond, they're not part of the political cycle. Meaning that, for example, the one for Iten is expiring in 2023. By that time, we'll be done with elections. That is one way. The second way is that the UAP was already adopted by the boards, and the UAP has all this menu. So it's already a legal, one of the planning documents, and that no one can change that. And from the practice and the culture of Elgeyo Marakwet County is that we also have a public participation way where all the projects have been prioritized. So for example, for the next year, we already know what will be invested in because our people not only choose projects, but also prioritize #1 to 5. So I don't think there's any problem with elections this time. In terms of investment, after giving the example of the loss that we got last year from the potatoes and the ownership that the locals have on the UAP, I don't think anybody will also agree for any such investment to be destroyed after going through all that thorough investment and the losses that they got from the potatoes. So the UAP, one, and secondly, the board, which is outside the political circle, is enough reinforcement for such doubts, which I don't think will be there. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Janet. I'd like to go over to the next set of questions. And for these ones, I'd like Stephen to tackle. There's a question here on the circular economy from Susan. She's asking, do any of the investments have a circular economy aspect? I'd like you to talk about some of the projects and their circular economy aspect. And then secondly, there's a question from Michael on how can private sector work with municipalities on waste management? I think this is an interesting one. I think across a number of municipalities, we're working on waste management projects and creating an opportunity for private sector to come in and support the municipalities. So I'd like you, Stephen, to answer those 2 questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz, and I hope you can hear me. Please do let me know if there's a challenge. But just before I go into those questions, to the question of ring fencing projects from the political cycles, I want to add that in addition to what Janet says, is to first of all ensure that we're actually selecting a project objectively based on the competitive advantage of a municipality or a county, such that is not a project that in the first place was selected for the wrong reasons. Which then means if a project was selected for the right reason, objectively, the raw materials are there, everything is there, any government coming into place will be looking to proceed with that project. But coming on to the question on circular economy, yes, circular economy is one of among the SWED principal circular economies on one of them. And what we are doing, if you look at Kisii, for example, if you look at avocado, where we are doing extraction of oil, and Jamil spoke to that project, which we are hoping to close shortly. You expect that from that process, then you will get a lot of waste. The yield on avocado is about 10%, 90% of that is waste. And we are looking at the possibilities of using that waste to go into production of gas, biogas, or even animal feed, right? If you look at another project we are doing in Kisii, which is around banana fiber, as you might be aware, for those of you who come from Kenya today, once you get the banana fruit, there's nothing that is happening to the banana stem and the leaves. So we have a project in Kisii, which is around utilizing the stem, which is today treated as waste 100%, to sell that off to an investor who could use the waste, the banana stem to make fiber, sanitary pads, and other products that come from such a project. And it's not only in Kisii, across the value chains that we have across the 12 municipalities. If you look at Iten, you also have Irish potato, you have nuts, and the agricultural waste that is coming from that can actually be used as an input for other value chains, going forward. And we're looking to see how we can do that. If you look at the UEPs and the emerging opportunities, you will see animal feed coming across most of the municipalities, and that is actually meant to use the waste coming out of some of the value chains. The question around whether there is waste management and what we're doing there, yes, as Liz mentioned, across all the 12 municipalities, actually, there is an element of waste. If you look at Kisii, Iten, there was waste. Isiolo, there is a waste. There was waste. Malindi, there is waste. And so what we are trying to do is to see how we can bring the private sector in, and especially on aspects to do using the waste, looking at how to recycle that waste and make products out of it. So in some instances, like in Kisii, for example, we are looking at the possibility of, getting a landfill, a proper landfill in place, and trying to get a private sector operator to come and run that landfill. Now, most of the counties, the municipalities we are dealing with, there's a lot of organic waste coming out of it, and there are products that can be made out of that, which then the operators can, look and, exploit commercially. But beyond the organic waste, there is also the inorganic waste, which once sorted can be sold off to off-takers who can use it to make very many other products, be they paper, metals, and the various, elements. So I'll say that especially on the waste to value initiatives, there's a big opportunity for the private sector to come in, either to set up sorting facilities themselves at the landfill being operated by the counties, and or buy that waste to offtake and then go use it to make valuable products, which is also going back to the circular economy. But also maybe participation in the collection aspects to a lesser extent, but also managing the entire waste value chain in the municipalities. I think, Lisa, just before I give it to you, there was a question around regional play. Are we looking at the possibility of, looking beyond the borders of a municipality or a county? Waste management is a good example. If you look at Iten, for example, waste management was one of the opportunities there. But looking at the closeness of Iten to Eldoret, which is another municipality that we are looking at, and with Eldoret being 50 kilometers away and having much more waste compared to the volumes available in Iten, then in such an instance, we are looking at the possibility of having a waste management project in Eldoret, which then serves the larger North Rift region, not just Eldoret, but covering Iten and other municipalities. So yes, it's something we are looking at. Back to you, Liz.
Thank you very much, Stephen, for that, and also bringing the aspect of how we're looking at the opportunities in the value chains. And I think one of the other important things to mention is that as part of the screening process is also that aspect of understanding the competitive advantage that a municipality have for a particular value chain, because you find that a lot of value chains are quite similar, and we've gone through that process of by the time we get to Iten and we're saying this is the project, we've actually assessed whether they are competitive in that value chain as compared to other municipalities. I know there was a comment from Kali who's interested in the banana fiber value chain. So Kali, I hope you have heard that is the value chain that we're looking at, and please do connect with Stephen. And I also see that Jamil has shared his contact details. So you should be able to connect on that. So maybe just to wind up, as I can't see any other, wind up on the Q&A because I can't see any other questions from the audience. Maybe just to take it back to our two municipalities represented here, Kisii and Iten. And thank you, Janet, for showcasing your opportunities as well. I think we're very interested in ensuring, something like the Sports Hub gets done in Iten, given that you're the home of champions, and it's important for you to look at, what you bring in terms of that already competitive advantage there. But I wanted to just go back to the two municipalities, given the fact that SWADE is a municipality, like we anchor our support to the municipality. And I wanted to give them an opportunity to just share with the wider audience in terms of any opportunities they're looking at that are particular to attract other kind of financing or other investors, as well as any opportunities for collaboration. I know Jamil had mentioned some, but just wanted to check whether there's any that you'd want to highlight as we wind up on the panel and before we go into the next session. Yes, sure, Jamil.
Okay, thank you very much, Liz. So what I want to say, first of all, I don't know if there's anybody from the United Kingdom or from England who is there. Ours is, first of all, on behalf of the municipality and the residents of Kisii municipality, to thank everybody and to thank the people of the United Kingdom for actually supporting us through the SWADE program, and to give you undertaking that we'll make sure that this money is actually used to uplift the quality of life of the people of Kisii. Having said that, there are two things that I just want to give my closing statements on. The first one is to say that I want to challenge anybody who is there or who's listening to us to actually first engage with the municipality, engage with us on potential projects, ask us what projects are available. And if you have a particular project that you have in mind, come and speak to us. Speak to us and tell us that this is a project you may be interested in, because we want to be very agile in our mind. The SWADE program has taught us that we need to be very flexible if we want to achieve our goals of urban development in the next 10 years. So if you have a project in mind, or if you're looking for a project to work with, please come and please contact us, and we will work with you to make sure that we do what we have to do to create that enabling environment for you. The second one is a plea, and I think there was a question about cross-regional and cross-border potential. And again, I want to go back to market development. If you look at investments Kenya has made in the last 10 years, a lot of money has been put up in building the road network. But when you ask yourself the question, what are these road networks designed to do? It's basically designed to open up markets. And what we forget to do is to actually say, well, what we need to do is actually build the market so people can use the roads to build markets and to access markets. And what we're saying in Kisii, we have a potential for up to 10,000 for markets which are COVID compliant for up to 10,000 people. And I was just calculating, and the annual revenue from these 10,000 people, based on what is currently being paid today to the municipality, is about $15 million. So what we're saying is that for $10 million, or even less, you can get something that will be giving you a payback of $15 million in the first 1 year, if it is done to scale. So there is great potential in working with municipalities, and we encourage you to actually come out and reach out to us, and then look for other entrepreneurs or finances. First come and study the projects that are available or the opportunities that are available in Kisii. Thank you, and thank you, SWADE program. Thank you, Eunice, and thank you, everybody else.
All right, thank you for that, Jamil. I think that those numbers are quite powerful, and I believe a key aspect of the program is to ensure that through this process, the municipality is actually generating quite significant revenue. So that's a good thing to note. I'll head over to Iten. Janet, please come in and also share your perspectives and give us your closing thoughts.
Thank you so much, Liz, for this opportunity, and all the participants. I just want to mention one thing that I almost forgot, is that during this year's budget, we were able to do a land banking vote, because if you see, one of the incentives that we're giving to our investors is that we're going to give you land. So what the government has managed to do this time around is to, set up a vote to put some money aside to be able to buy land if need be, where we don't have land for investment. So that is one of the things that we're giving as incentives. Apart from the issue of potato, which I'd mentioned, there's also sports bar, which was part of the menu that didn't, make to the cut of the first three. We have a lot of fruits in Elgeyo Marakwet, especially mangoes, a lot of mangoes, very sweet mangoes, and most of them go to West. And we were looking into an opportunity to do a sports bar where athletes can use it, or any other person can eat instead of the normal sugar, chocolates, or so that you have a healthier bar. It can be mixed with the nuts because we also have a lot of nuts. That is one value chain that you can invest in. Secondly, we also have the issue of retail. Jamil has been quite strong on issues of market. We also had our market in our UAP, but it didn't make to the cut of the first three, yet the information and all the data is there. We know that if we build a modern market within Iten municipality, it can serve all the three other neighboring counties, two other rather, Baringo and Uasin Gishu, given that we are home of fresh food. So we have an opportunity to invest in retail and market also. And then lastly, as Stephen had said, and I think even Liz also had asked the issue of what is this? The issue of the value chain and the product of waste. And in Iten municipality, we are already starting a conversation with a very small company, not small, a big company in Finland, on if they can engage in green energy from the waste that we're getting from the potatoes and the vegetables. So we already given them land, but the conversation is very, very at the very beginning stages. So that is still also open. So it's open. We are open for issues of waste, especially greening energy to finance. To light up the whole town. Secondly, the issue of groundnuts value chain. Then thirdly, the issue of retail and markets. And we have space, we have land, we are doing roads, we also have piping water around that place. So welcome. Thank you, Liz.
Okay.
And thank you everybody for this. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you very much, Janet and Jamil, for those additional insights. And going back to the objective of our session, we wanted to be able to share with potential investors or other people who are interested at doing something within the municipality that can lead to economic development. I hope we've been able to sort of give you a sense in terms of the opportunities that are there and how we work with the municipalities. I think it's been a very fruitful collaboration. And today we had 2 municipalities talking to us, that is Kisii and Iten, but Sweden is working across 12 municipalities. And we do have investment opportunities across the others. And I'm just going to mention very quickly, we are working in Isiolo, and in Isiolo, we're looking at a sustainable urban drainage system. Isiolo is very much prone to flooding and as well as drought. So we're trying to see how we can contain that water for economic use. There's also solid waste management as a project there. We're also looking at the meat value chain. They have an abattoir that they're operationalizing. There's meat processing as an extension to that. We are working in Malindi. Malindi, we're focusing on fruit processing. We're focusing on a project within the blue economy on fish, within the fish value chain. And lastly, we're working with the water and sewage company there in creating a fecal sludge facility that also has a waste to value component to improve the sanitation within the town. And then, of course, the opportunities that have been mentioned here in Kisii: avocado oil, solid waste management, banana fiber, and in Iten, groundnut processing, Irish potato, and development of an infrastructure project, which is their sports hub. So in terms of the other municipalities, we are also supporting Eldoret, Mandera, Kerugoya, Bungoma, Wote, and Lamu. And for those ones, we're at a bit of an early stage, and we're going to be kicking off the investment attraction side of things in the first and second quarter of the year. So for any of you who are interested in some of the opportunities that I've mentioned, please do reach out to me so that we can be able to share more details. We do have pre-feasibility studies for the projects in Isiolo, Malindi, Kisii, and Iten. We can share that with you so that you can have a better understanding of these opportunities and what is behind them. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. And I'm going to invite Eunice Ogolo, who started us off to come and conclude this session for us. And thereafter, we can end the session. So thank you again, and over to you, Eunice.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Liz, for steering the session very well. I think we've had some really good discussions, and we're very grateful to the participants. Thank you for staying through to the end. I have been looking at the number, and I can see that those who joined have stayed through to the end. I really hope this has been a useful conversation for you, and I hope you've been able to see and appreciate the ambition of the SWED program. I think for me, if it is two things that summarize the SWED program, one is proper urban planning, but the other is green investment into real projects into Kenya's secondary cities in a way that creates that inclusive growth. So I hope you have, taken links, and do reach out to us. As we have said, we're happy to engage in further conversations, regarding the specific investments. So do reach out to us if you'd like to have a conversation. Let me also really, really thank our partners who help us implement the program. So for those who are not here at the beginning, I lead on the delivery of the SWED program from the British High Commission side. This is a program that is supported by the UK government, working across 12 municipalities, and we do work with partners to deliver it. So I really want to thank our partners led by Tetra Tech. Liz works in the team as the investment lead. So really thank you for looking after the program. A big thank you to Simon, representing Atkins, who does our urban planning. And thank you as well to Stephen, representing KPMG, that does our investment attraction work for the program. And I also really want to thank the municipalities that we work with. I think this is a very collaborative program, as we said at the beginning, and we rely a lot on the municipalities' support. And so thank you so much, represented by Jamil and Janet today. We are very, very grateful to the municipalities. And also just lastly, thanking the organizers again of the SunHub Summit for giving us this platform. Thank you so much for coordinating everything and making it possible for us to have this forum to share the work that we do. We are truly grateful for that. And again, just as I finish, to thank participants, thank you so much for your time, and do have a good rest of the day. Thank you very much.